Okay, we'll do a quick review of the agenda. Let me see if you guys can see this. Is it the font too small?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, small, but I can view the email from my.
Okay, so from an agenda standpoint, I've kind of split it into two kind of sections, and then part of it is going to be focusing more on the VOLTHA stuff today, and then we can focus on the adapter stuff tomorrow, unless we feel that things are critical and we really need to address the adapter stuff today. But that'll be time pending based upon this meeting. So from an agenda standpoint, there were stories that we had reviewed and said that we would be monitoring. So let's get a quick status update on that. And then branching strategy. We're going to have the VOLTHA release. We're going to have the adapter. We've deferred some of the adapter discussions, but I think we're going to have to work through some of the branching issues. And then who's going to handle that? And then another thing is around VOLTHA sprints versus adapter sprints. I think we're going to have to decouple the sprints in terms of their timeline. So let's go ahead and get to the Jira stories and kind of updates on the status of that. So I have Jira up. Let me pull this to the side real quick. Oh, one of the things that we were looking into, let me look at the backlog. So upon configuration, there's been a lot of updates, right? So the items that Sirisha had mentioned that were done were these, and then there's a recent update of this item being done. I think the two items that Sirisha had noted that may be at risk were 173 and 174. Is Sirisha online to give an update?
Yeah, I'm online.
Okay. I noticed they're in progress. So where are they at, and do we think they're at risk for the release?
I think we should be able to get it done by the end of the week. We are pretty much mostly done with all the configuration aspects of it, and also the adapter facing interfaces. We're just working through a couple of ID pool related stuff in the context of HA, and I think we should be able to get that done this week.
Cool. But in the context of HA, would you need some help from Sergio's side, or is it just something you guys need to work it out?
We have a solution, and we also have a call with Sergio this afternoon. Yeah, we'll work it out together.
Cool.
Okay. So I'll make an update to the two stories.
Just a quick comment. Sirisha, is there a relationship between the TCON gem provisioning and the OpenFlow provisioning, or is just assumed that all traffic goes on a single TCON gem association?
Well, I'm not quite sure how the adapters are designed, but I can speak for the core itself. With respect to the core, there is no limitation that there's supposed to be only a single gem port or a single traffic class, TCON. The way the OpenFlow configuration ties into the gem and the TCON configuration is through traffic classes. And this was actually described in, I believe, WT 384 as well, as to how, when we configure the gem ports, there's a traffic class which kind of gives you the global, and then when flows get set up on a particular OpenFlow port, which in our case is a UNI, then the traffic class is referenced over there as well. So that's what ties both of them together. So the flows basically have a reference to the traffic class, and that's how the gems get picked up based on that. So, so the OpenFlow configuration comes from the OpenFlow SDN controller. On this, in this particular case, and the gem ports, they can come in any order, and the adapters are supposed to take care of both of them and look at and correlate the traffic classes and use the gem ports accordingly.
Okay, I'll take a look at 384. Maybe I'll send you an email if I have any further questions. Thanks.
Sure.
Hi, Sirisha, this is Amit. So does that mean that you have made some changes to the owner's OLT app also?
Yes, we did long time back. I think it's already a part of 1.10. It's not necessarily recently. We did that as a part of our initial OpenFlow deployments because, as you may already know, there was no traffic class or the PBIT related information in the QoS app. So we did update that to support it.
Okay, but I don't see that in the master branch. As in, I've not seen anything like that on the master branch.
It's not a recent. I mean, it's been there for quite some time. I can send you the link to
But,
the patch set.
Yeah, any ideas if it is merged already?
It should be merged. Let me check and get back to you because I don't think it's a recent one. It's been there for quite some time. So let me actually check and get back. I mean, there was another team working on it. I need to go check with them and get back on that.
Yeah, thanks.
So again, all the new implementation, for other OLT adapters, they should be just able to go into the code and see how interact with the adapter. Okay, what I'm saying is, what 173, 174 is developing, will all the adapter need to change something on their code accordingly to utilize the 173 and 174?
Right. Actually, if you go look at the VOLTHA branch today, or the main branch in VOLTHA, there's already the protos are already pushed. I mean, that's one thing we did. We wanted to make sure that the protos are available for everybody to look at while we're developing this. So the protos have been pushed like last week and also merged. So I mean, while we are developing this, the adapter interfaces basically use the same protos. So all the adapters can go take a look at how the information is going to get passed to the to their adapters using those protos. And today, or like maybe tomorrow, we'll also push the adapter-facing interfaces. I mean, we've made changes to PONSIM, and there's some testing going on right now.
Okay.
Once we're okay, we'll push that as well.
So do you have any issue on pushing and committed code now?
No, it's great. We have +2 rights, and of course we only review ones which we are owners of, and which is Expon for that matter. And
right.
It's worked out good. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So I would strongly suggest everybody, if you have your own adapter, make sure you follow up this thread of development. So that includes.
I do want to mention one thing that I think I brought this up before as well. Right now, since there's no device management for the ONU, so we had to go through a lot of workarounds within the Expon. I mean, you probably already, looked at the code as well, that, for example, we automatically create the device when the VONTNI is created in the Expon, because we don't really have a device management, which should have been a priori task before the Expon handler gets involved. Since we don't have that right now, we are, kind of doing some workarounds and creating them automatically within the VOLTHA code as soon as the operator provisions the ANI on the device, but I mean, it's also not clear when all that will get done, to be honest, which release it's planned for. And because once we know when it's planned for, we need to probably go and take those workarounds out.
Yeah. Okay. Amit, maybe we can talk about that, but since we have a feature freeze by the end of this sprint, so we probably have to push that in 1.1. But you know, I'll talk to Amit and Yuan about this.
Okay, so I will list down the restrictions, or how we are trying to work around the fact that there is no device management as a part of the documentation as well, so that way you know
Okay.
what parts are actually kind of like worked around inside of the XPON core, because of no device management right now. I'll mention that, but I think we should try to look at when we can bring that in. I know for VOLTHA 1.0 it's too late, but maybe next release.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
Yuan, back to you.
Yes, thanks. So the next item on the agenda is the chameleon issue. Do we have an update from Sergio?
Sergio's going to be a bit late. He did Slack me an update. Basically, he says he has a fix-in that will allow the curl stuff work that needs to be +2'd by someone to get merged in. Otherwise, he'll work on it and get it merged in the next day or two. In terms of the IP address item that's on his plate, he's going to get that done by Thursday. He says it should be done by Thursday. So that's kind of the update I have from him on that. So once again, once this +2 is done, this commit is merged, the curl should work, and I know that's what one of the things people were waiting for.
Do you know how it was broken?
He's actually removing Chameleon from the pipeline. He's changing how that's happening. So I don't know exactly how it was broken.
Okay.
But he basically is streamlining the process to remove Chameleon to make things go a little smoother and more direct.
But would that miss some other functionality, or
the only functionality Chameleon would have would be the Swagger stuff, and he's going to put that in the new pipeline. It's just going to again bypass Chameleon.
Okay.
There's a question mark. Is there? Is that a query? If there's another issue we need to deal with?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. So taking notes, and then for the adapter, the IP issue, I think we said Thursday, so we can pick that up on the Thursday call. The question would be others. So as folks have been working on their stories, I think the last thing we heard was everything should be good, but if there are anything that needs to be flagged, it would be good to bring up at this point. So if no one brings something up, I assume all the other stories, excluding the adapter stuff, is on track for this release. Is this the case?
I mean, this is that all the Sprint 4 has? But this is just for the POM manager, right? POM config.
No.
Other area, there's no
This
outstanding issue.
So we have pawn configuration, chameleon, the adapter IP, right? Those were items that we had called out in the last meeting. So the other question is, was anything that we had said was on track? Has any of that slipped? That we need to monitor. Otherwise, I'll assume that everything is on track for the end of sprint. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is the branching strategy. So looking at Garrett, it seems like VOLTHA is branched off of, or is working off of master on a VOLTHA repo. So from a branching strategy standpoint, right? So VOLTHA repo on master. So I think once we hit, so there's multiple, we've sprints coming up. We've got the integration, and then fix, and RC, right? So we've got bug fixes, documentation, RC for the hardening sprints. So with integration, my assumption is we'll keep to master, and then we'll then create a support branch for bug fixes.
Okay, so who's creating the branches or things like that?
That would be the next item on the agenda. We need to identify
okay.
someone to do this. So we need to identify someone to create the support branch and cut the release.
So basically, the support branch is what we cut after code's complete, and only bug fixes go into that. And anybody else wants to develop features can continue on master.
Yes, and I think this is where we need to figure out where we go with the adapter, right? So as we get to master integration, we're essentially working off of, let me pull up the sprint schedule, which was kind of our next item on the agenda. So if I pull up with Sprint 3 review, we had talked about the upcoming sprint schedule. We're currently working towards the 14th, which is feature freeze. Theoretically, at this point, this is when we actually create the branch. But my concern is with integration, it sounds like there's a bunch of code coming in. So we're going to have a lot of code churn. So we may as well just get that done with on master. So we have a 1 week integration period. I don't know the scope of the integration we have to do. I don't know if folks have been integrating as they've been moving along, or whether there is end-to-end testing that we need to do. So if you guys can help me understand the scope of that, that would be great. Do we actually have integration?
I mean, to me, integration is putting everything together, right? We have people developing VOLTHA separately from the adapter, separately from the control plane applications. Somewhere we need a lab that essentially mimics what a deployment, and we need to install everything on it and see what happens, right? And fix when it doesn't. And that includes all the different control plane.
Part of that, David, is I think part of that's going to be some sort of documented network config north of the OLT, right? How does VOLTHA and ONOS, the Tor, how is all of that connected and configured, right? So we're using a common configuration north of the OLT.
Agreed. And it's going to have to, it's going to really have to express all the use cases that we expect to be able to implement at the end of this, right? So there's a specific AT&T use case. Are there any other use cases that we expect this deployment to fit in? And if so, the network diagrams for those, as well as everything else.
So has this been in the works, or are these things that we'll need to still do?
I think need to do. I mean, I would assume everybody has kind of what they've gathered and written down during POC 2, but I think that needs to be, all those need to be reviewed with AT&T and say, to Steve's point, you know, is there, what's the deployment that we're going into for POC 3? That, what's it look like? What's its configuration? How do we get to access to the backend servers? You know, what's the physical deployment going to look like? And how's it wired? And that's going to take input from AT&T. And if we have other use cases we're looking to support, it's also going to take input from whoever is pushing those use cases, the customer representing those use cases.
So Sean, do we have something like this?
We have so David, you're talking about the basic topology and connection and all IP address assignment, all those details, or?
Yep. You know, how many servers, how they're connected, the different, you know, specific, you know, the NICs on each of those servers, you know, in terms of their bandwidth capabilities, how big are they, how things are wired, how do we get upstream, what are the different, you know, what's our next hop router, all that good stuff. You know, VLAN assignments.
OnCard is on the call right now. We still have some of those information, right?
Yes.
Because we expect the next deployment to be different. I won't say significantly different, but perhaps significantly different than what we saw in POC 2. And just as part of integration, we have to make sure that we test those use cases.
So I think what we can do is I'll get together with OmCard and get those set up, and I think that the VLAN assignment still probably is carryover from the phase 2, but just in case some people don't remember it. And there will be 2 different pool of the VLANs because we got 2 different OLTs. And then another difference is the servers. We actually have 4 servers.
Yep.
And are the servers will be on the top of rack switch, or it's on its own management switch first?
So Sean, I'd like to get through the rest of the agenda first. I think the plan is that you would provide documentation, and why don't we take this to Thursday's call where we walk through what the requirements for integration deployment would be.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add there is, you know, additional to the network, we're also going to need things like any radius information that has to be passed to proxy up with it, or anything in the you know, format, if you will, for the client ID, remote ID for DHCP relay. So kind of those network protocol aspects of it as well.
I think that makes sense. We provide that in advance, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so I think the action item I see here is Sean will provide documentation. We'll go over this, at Thursday's meeting. Okay. Okay, so as we look at the sprint schedule, we've got that as part of integration sprint. I think we'll need to work through how we're going to tackle this, whether folks are going to be working together or if folks are just kind of going into their groups and just trying to work through it. We can talk through that at Thursday's meeting also. And then for Sprint 6, the focus would be, it's 1.5 weeks. It'll be bug fixes hardening. This is the point where we said we would have a support branch created and only bug fixes would go into there. As to how we do the adapter, we'll discuss that at tomorrow's meeting for now. So from that perspective, right, the plan would be as part of the discussion for the sprint planning, we'll go over the bug scrub, we'll go over what is critical for us to try to fix before we have RCs in the release. Okay, So going back to this, we need to identify someone to probably start working with Andy to better understand kind of the support branch and release process. I think there's also a link on the wiki. So any volunteers? Because without this, we don't have a release. So I hope there's.
You said they have to work with Andy.
They're welcome to figure out the process, but Andy's been doing it for the cord side, so he may be a good resource to just ping to get a brain dump on.
I hate to push it to Sienna, but I think Dave, you guys seem to have a. But no. I'm going to say is I don't want to deal with that just individually. I would like to have maybe Redisys and Nokia also involved, at least as the learning process, how the process has been doing.
I agree. I think having multiple people understand how this works is better.
Exactly.
If there's a bus accident again, it's always good.
Right.
I'll be happy to chat with Andy and take this. If someone from Radisys and Nokia can ping me offline, unicast me, and I'll include them in any information or meetings we have on this.
I mean, whoever, Radisys, Nokia, Atran, whoever you guys want to, be involved on this one, because this is basically, catching up the practice of the ONF practice, right? So
yeah, if people are interested, give me a ping. You can cast me, and I'll include you guys.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
This is David Bainbridge.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, so I've the notes I have is David Bainbridge will take the lead on this, working with Andy, and then Sean has asked for participation from Radisys and Nokia. So if you guys can ping David to get pulled into.
Omkar, will you be interested in also participating in that?
Sure, yeah.
Who did you say? Sorry, what was the name?
Omkar Yoshi is from AT&T. OMKAR.
Okay. I'll also make a note. Okay, so yeah. Good. I'm getting my agenda for Thursday's meeting, so we're good there. And then.
Yuan, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I think that on the device manager, this one, I was one, the Lydia, right? We're asking Redisys to check Lydia's status on the VOLT-63. I don't know whether Redisys any update on that one. That's about the device manager image download to device.
Yes, Sean. So I think it's still under testing. The code, as in it has undergone some review comments and it's still under testing.
Under testing? Okay.
Yeah. I think that's what I had heard last.
I think Lydia's on PTO this week.
Are we on track?
So I don't. If she's on PTO,
I'll check and find out when she's back. But with the intent of getting this closed.
Great, thanks, Tim. because that one we've been asking for status for a few meetings now. So
Okay, I have notes.
sorry I interrupt you.
No worries. This is the point of this is for us to make sure we don't lose track of anything. Okay, so the next thing we have is to separate the VOLTHA sprints and adapter sprints. So we'll have more, I think, fine-grained planning for the adapter stuff. But what I wanted to highlight is currently we have sprint 4, 5, and 6, right? So 2 weeks and then essentially 2.5 weeks. As we look at separating the sprints, I think what I'm hearing is, here. Actually, let me just clone this. So from the adapter perspective, I think what we want to do is a sprint for the adapter that goes to the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
This will be feature freeze. The risk, as I've noted before, is feature freeze will be till the end, which means there is no hardening sprint unless we want to build it afterwards. Right? So we're going through to the end of August with the assumption that that will be functionality complete for the adapter, but we're decoupling it so there is no sprint 6.
So basically, the hardening is doing the.
This will have to be feature freeze and hardening.
The feature free, but there is a. Because the phase 3 doesn't start until September 11th. So of course there's a Labor Day that in between. If there's any code changes or whatever in September, would they still be allowed to integrate into the, or will become part of the support branch, not the release branch? What I'm saying is, because you know the after the feature free. Okay, so when is the release for this adapter? Release date for the adapter?
So we go with the original plan where we have this done, well, so VOLTHA will be August 31st. I think start of testing is going to be September 11th. So it depends on whether we feel comfortable spilling into the 1 week buffer.
Right.
That sounds pretty risky to me for this adapter.
I mean, with or without?
I think anyway it's going to be a risk, right? Because it comes down to, do we have features that will take until the 31st to complete? If not, then we could start testing beforehand and just hold off on testing the final features, essentially.
Are you talking about on the adapter?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's going to take every bit until the 31st just to get to an MVP, at least.
Then it's pretty risky and potentially unstable.
Exactly, and with no hardening cycle.
So I think you're going to have to have some sort of testing cycle, right? Unless you want to just take this piece of software and throw it into testing. Which the good news is, at least the folks working on it will be testing it first.
Is that something that could happen after pot 3? Or do we have to have a 1.0? Can it be a 0 point something?
Well, we can call it whatever we want, but if we want it to be functional and at least be able to pass traffic, I think we need to complete the features identified for Sprint 4 and Sprint 5.
Mhm.
And that still needs.
So although that necessarily doesn't include the hardening, right? Or is that part of the hardening?
Well, by hardening, just simply bug fixing.
And I think if feature development goes until the 31st, then are there any plans to do, is there any bandwidth to do any testing beforehand? Or is the whole team focused on developing features through the 30th?
Yeah, at the moment it's incremental feature development there, on that breakdown that Tim had presented the other day, has the current focus for what needs to be in there. There's incremental functionality coming along, and the very key points of testing, certain Val 2.4 features that have to be in there, like that making sure all the OMCIs and OMCI proxies in place, the ONU activation and all that. We need to get an assessment of, this changes kind of on a day-by-day basis, so we have to kind of look at that and see how much we have. We're trying to work for minimal viable features, and I think as each one of those goes in, the developers are checking the basics to see if that to see how each one of those incremental parts are working.
Okay, so let's do this. We'll agree that Sprint 5 for the adapter will be decoupled from Sprint 5 for VOLTHA, right? So we won't focus on integration. For the adapter, we'll do development and make sure that there's feature freeze by 8/31. I think as to how we handle the hardening and testing, let's defer it until we discuss what features will be in. Because I think we still need to look through the updates from Tim and then see what's in and what's out. And that's currently planned for tomorrow's meeting. Are we okay with that time frame?
I think it makes sense.
Okay, so let's do that. We'll just agree to decouple with the understanding that this is the VOLTHA plan. And then, so tomorrow we'll go over the plans around the adapter. Sean, I don't know if you've reviewed the full list, but let's make sure that list is reviewed, and then let's flag any gotchas. I think one of the things that we had talked about before was for the Gemport ID, could we do manual configuration, right? So as we look at that plan, let's understand why that's basic functionality and whether there were any options, or are there still any options for workarounds.
I reviewed it. It makes sense to me when I read it yesterday. So let me go through that maybe with Julie again and see whether. But tomorrow we'll be ready to discuss that. And I think because the other thing is we have to adjust the phase 3, basically the phase 3 test strategy. The document I need to scope down based on current what VOLTHA support, and then further scope down based on what the edge core adapter can support. So I would so the first level of scope down will apply to the different hardware variant for the phase 3, and then the further scope down will be applicable for the adapter, edge core adapter. So yeah, I think I have a lot to go through today also.
Okay, so the plan for tomorrow is we'll go through that list and then figure out when we'll be done with basic functionality and how we want to handle branching and integration of the adapter once it's done with the VOLTHA work. So we'll try to get that finalized tomorrow. And then Thursday we'll go over the update from Sergio for the IP. And then we'll go over the documentation you're going to provide for the integration. Let's work through the integration plan. So that starting next Tuesday, we can work through what needs to be done for that. Okay?
And just a bit of the, I know the schedule, and it seems like, the VOLTHA 1.0, we almost have 3 months, but it doesn't seem to be enough. One thing is, thanks everybody for putting all the energy on this one. One thing is, there are things, I think documentation will help if the feature is lacking, or we need to provide a workaround. So make sure the documentation is complete, whoever is managing the features. So I appreciate everybody's hard work. Well, I should say AT&T appreciate everybody's hard work.
And then the other thing I want to note is I am hopping into this in the middle of everything. So if I'm missing anything, please feel free to point it out and we can work to address it.
No, I think you jumped in very efficient, effectively. So appreciate that.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay. So thanks everyone. So we'll go through tomorrow and Thursday's meeting with the agenda ahead listed. I'll send out notes from today's meeting and agendas for the next 2 meetings. So
cool.
Thanks everyone.
Wow, we actually have 12 minutes back today. How effective you are, man. Okay.
Yeah, we may need those back tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.